Hello, Austin from Dragon Co. here again. Right before quarantine, I made a deck for a jank league, the rules of which were that the deck could be a maximum of $30, no individual card could be more than $1.50, and then the commander had its own special price range. I made this Heartless Hidetsugu deck, although the deck is over here, and I liked the way it was performing, and it had a couple of sort of stacksy land destruction elements that I thought were fun to play with, but you can't really optimize within the budget, so it was more just a pingers, burn everyone out kind of deck. So I wanted to make a better version of that, a more upgraded version without a budget, although still it wouldn't be terribly expensive. I dug through my commanders I want to build and found this guy, Zozu the Punisher, who punishes your opponents for playing lands. He punishes you for playing lands too, but theoretically, you're going to play fewer of them. So the idea would be that I would make a sort of burn pingers deck, but specifically to work with Zozu and some other cards that I wanted to play. So I'm going to look at this deck here. This is in the storage area for it. So we have the actual jank deck that I made. As you can see, it's in penny sleeves because it's not particularly expensive. I think some of this might have passed the budget settings at this point, but it was at the time it was made, so cards change price, and that is fine. So I rebought some of the cards that are in this deck for this project, and then I have some cards that were just kind of too expensive to fit in the first place, but this is sort of the template that I'm working on. So yeah, and barbs. All right, so let's put this up and look at the sideboard cards that might have gone in this deck. Let's put this Heartless Hidetsugu away because we're working with Zozu here. So the cards here are either cards that these are cards that I got just for the Zozu deck, and then these are cards that either didn't quite fit in or were too expensive for the Hidetsugu deck. So we're probably going to play Boil. Target player can't play lands this turn. That card seems fine. That's a Ricochet. Probably not this. Stolen Strategy is really good. These two cards from Zendikar Rising provide you some card advantage and a way to keep dealing damage to opponents. This is like, could be a board wipe almost. That card's fun. I don't really know how well it does. So let's actually see if I can get to just skip right around here. So skip to this effect, Yokel Hops, which is destroy all artifacts, creatures, and lands. Which is pretty brutal for 6 mana, and this is kind of what I wanted to be building the deck around. Notably, it doesn't say enchantments, and it doesn't say planeswalkers. So the point of this deck will be to use Yokel Hops effects, or effects that do what red does, which is destroy artifacts, artifacts and lands, and then they can deal a lot of damage to creatures. Sometimes they destroy them, as in Yokel Hops, and sometimes they don't. But hopefully we'll keep the board clear, but our enchantments, which deal damage to people, and our planeswalkers, which can deal damage to people and provide us with extra mana in place of all the lands that we've lost. And in some cases our enchantments can provide us with mana, but usually not really. And that way we can continue to generate advantage while blowing up everything. And so actually win the game as opposed to just blowing up the lands and not really doing anything. So Yokel Hops goes in. This is what I'm talking about. We have this Chandra here. It minuses to add mana. Elementals, we might make a couple elemental tokens. I don't know, but that's the type of thing we want to do. This card was just in there for reasons I don't really need. Crimson Hellkite, or these was the budget. Same with Brothers of Fire. This card isn't actually particularly good, but it's fun. Acidic Soil, this card was actually slightly too expensive to go in the budget deck. Rummaging Goblin we might want to play. Underworld Breach is just a fine card. War's Toll, this one's a really good one. It can it prevents it makes our opponents tap all their lands, and it makes them attack, so it forces them into doing things that they probably don't want to be doing. This Chandra can of course put loyalty counters on other planeswalkers, so it's a way to get all our planeswalkers up. And there's our elementals right there. Price for progress, again, that was too expensive to put in the other deck. Deals a bunch of damage to our opponents. We're going to be playing a bunch of basics. We do some non-basics, but mostly basics, so it'll hurt us less than it hurts our opponents, and that's really the name of the game. That card might be fine, and it's all right. Furious Rise, same thing. We need creatures with power 3 or greater. I'm going to put that in as a maybe. Same thing with Bedlam Reveler, but those will probably get cut. This card is bad. This card was going to be my commander until I realized that I should probably have just put in like a good card. This card's really funny. The giant picks up and throws a creature. Not great. Same with Orcish Artillery, deals damage to us. Cleansing Beam, I think, is actually pretty good. It's a board wipe, but only for creatures of one color. It's a Pyroclasm. It's 5 mana, though, so it might be a bit much. Koreanist Bell randomly makes swamped creatures that you can Pyroclasm. That card's fine. This card is a 4 mana Stone Rain, but it adds 2 red back to your mana pool. So once you get to 4 mana, you can still keep doing things. This is the same thing. It's a pinger, but it pings all creatures with the same color. Whenever a creature dies, that creature's controller loses 2 life. We're going to have fewer creatures, hopefully, than our opponents. So when our opponent's creatures die to board wipes, hopefully our board wipes, then we can ping them for it. And Zarin Ruins really hoses tribal decks. Tremble is one of my favorite cards ever. Each player sacrifices a land. It's not actually particularly good, but it's really funky. And everyone hates you when you play it. And then this card might be fine. Probably going to get cut eventually, but you know, it's a bit janky. And then we have the cards that I picked up for this style of deck. So we have Blood Moon, which is going to go in and really hose our opponents again for playing non-basics. Sulfuric Vortex, that's just going to deal damage to everyone. It prevents life gain, which is one of the main ways that a sort of damage-based deck can end up losing the game. Sisters of Flame is actually a mana dork. It's 3 mana, but if we end up blowing up all the lands, because there we have a couple cards that just do that, if we end up blowing up a bunch of lands, then having a mana dork is super important, and there aren't that many great red mana dorks. There are some, but I mean, as evidence. Ankh Mishra is just Zozu's effect, so it deals land damage to people for lands entering the battlefield. Mana Barbs and Burning Earth are very similar. Mana Barbs is any land. Burning Earth is only non-basic lands tapped for mana. Then they deal 1 damage to that player's controller, again, punishing our opponents. The idea is that our opponents are going to have more mana than us. Like if they're playing a red deck or a Simic deck, or not a red deck, if they're playing a green deck or a Simic deck or something like that, they're generating more mana than we are. So we want to punish them for generating mana, for ramping lands. Harsh Mentor, if they're using abilities. Experiment of Frenzy is kind of a way for us to card draw. Mage's Contest is a counterspell, and it's really funny. Probably Pyroblast and Elemental Blast are better. Invader Parasite exiles lands. It exiles a land, which is cool, and then if you exile a basic with it, then you can start dealing damage to that player. So if everyone's playing green, or if everyone's playing black, or whatever, you can exile those lands and punish your opponents for that. Barbarian Ring is a colorless way to do damage, and it's on a land. So we can potentially shoot opponents' creatures down that might have protection from red. Boom Bust, there's our other way to destroy all lands, and then individual lands, like if our opponent has a really good one. Citadel of Pain, it forces your opponents to tap their lands. Basically, it deals damage to them if they don't. Same thing with Stoneshaker Shaman. At the end of their turn, they sacrifice an untapped land. So you want them to tap their lands down so they don't have interaction with you. And hopefully it will mana barbs them as well. Parasthetic Pillar is Eidolon of the Great Revel, except on an enchantment. Not an enchantment creature, just an enchantment. Like I say, I have cards that blow up all creatures and can kill creatures. I want to keep my stuff in enchantments. Cage Shun is just too good in a monocolored deck. Really, we can really ramp out with this card once we get... I mean, we have to get 6 mana in the first place, but that doesn't seem impossible in most Commander games. This card's just a non-basic that might be fine. Dingus Egg. Didn't we already have a Dingus Egg? We might already have a Dingus Egg. So we'll... oh no, this is whenever a land is put into a graveyard. Sorry. The other one is Dingus Staff, which deals damage for creatures being put in the graveyard. Dingus Egg, so when we blow up all lands, we can deal damage to our opponents that way. Seems pretty good. Leyline Tyrant, this card is really good. Especially, we can float mana and they blow up all lands, and this card can stay around and keep our mana in our mana pool. Same, really good with Braid of Fire, which we might put in the deck. Roiling Vortex we already have, so that is a duplicate. Lava-Born Muse Lavaborn, like that might be a bit too cute, but it's pretty good. Destroy target land, they can get a basic. This is basically a Geomancer's Gambit, but better, right? Wherever Geomancer's Gambit is. Basically a better Geomancer's Gambit. Tectonic Giant, actually a pretty good card just in general. There's another Experimental Frenzy. Decree of Annihilation, here's another way for us to destroy all lands. We can cycle it, destroy all lands. If we want to just cast, if we can cast it for 10, then we can get rid of a ton of stuff, leave our enchantments on the battlefield. And then Shattering Spree is a way to get rid of a couple artifacts if they are a pain in the butt. We do have a gold-bordered Pyroclasm here as well. I have a real Pyroclasm, but I do like the gold border. So let's count how many cards we have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. 50 cards. So we have about 23 additions plus basic lands that we can add. And in fact, there's a land or two in there already. So probably we have about 25 additions that we can make to this deck. So the first thing I am going to do, actually, again, I have a plan for this deck for the most part. I just was waiting to assemble it. So I'm going to pull out my rare and interesting box here, and I'm going to go to the back of it and go to the promo section, because I bought the signature spellbook for Chandra back when it came out. It was 2020, but here it is. And then there's some, I think I got that promo with it, and there's a Gideon stuff as well. But so we are going to put in the cards that are good for Commander, which I think are most of these. So let's see. Young Pyromancer actually gives us a way to win the game, maybe, so that might go in. Fiery Confluence is just great. This is a foil one. It just does everything. It's a Pyroclasm, it's a Shatter, it's a way to deal damage to players. I mean, good card. Pyromancer Ascension, maybe because that's the same card in your graveyard. This card doesn't actually do anything, so that's good. Counterspell for blue cards. We already have the Fiery Confluence. Cathartic Reunion is a maybe, and then Chandra Torch of Defiance is a definite. We can deal damage to players. We can make mana for a plus ability, which is great. We can get rid of creatures, and then the -7, we're never going to get there, but if we do, it wins the game, so that's good. Cathartic Reunion is a maybe. It might dig us out of a hole. So there we go. We're going to put in some of those Chandra cards. Rite of Flame was also in here, and I believe I put it somewhere else. I don't think Rite of Flame is... I don't think ritual spells are what we want, because they're negative card advantage, and we kind of want to milk all that we have for damage. As many cards as we possibly can. So now that I've looked at those, I am going to... so that was 4 additions. So we still have like 20 cards that we can put in. Yeah, so we still have like 20 other cards. So now I'm going to look at the red section of my rare and interesting box. So these are the cards that I thought might be good in, say, EDH or something. And we shall take a look and see if there's some good cards. I know that there are some cards in here that I was sort of saving specifically for this type of deck. So... let's see if we can find, shall we? So let's get, that's the end of the black section. Okay. Flame Tongue Kavu probably doesn't do enough. There's another Roiling Vortex. I really like that. I was buying as many copies as I could because I think in red decks, that's a super good effect. Although the Valakut Exploration is probably better. We're not going to be casting our commander very much, so that's not very useful. Loyal Apprentice is actually probably fine, so we'll set that one aside. Flameblast Dragon. These are some goblins. Made my goblin commander deck. Those are left over from that. Anger might be good. It depends on if we do actually have some dragons or something. Annex wants creatures to die, although our devotion to red is going to be pretty high, so we might be a big guy. Actually, we'll consider Annex. Probably not going to have him. Felden, same thing. It wants creatures in our graveyard. Dragon Mage is interesting. Lets us redraw our hands. Aria Flame, yeah, that's casting spells. Anger of the Gods. Goblin Game is funny. Yeah, Anger of the Gods. There's Braid of Fire. That's what I was talking about. Cumulative upkeep, add mana. This card was made when Mana Burn existed. So if you could use it on instance, that was good, but the downside was that it would damage you. Now it doesn't damage you, and so the downside is just that you can't use it at instant speed. We're not working that well at instant speed, but maybe if we put the Leyline Tyrant, it would be very good. Aether Flash, really good way to control the board. Once you get on the battlefield, you'd be surprised how many creatures have 2 toughness. Just kills so many creatures coming into the battlefield. This one's interesting. It's a shock, so controls the board. But if they have an indestructible creature, you can bounce it. Or just, a creature that's going to go off or do something when creature you don't want dead. That's just a surprising effect to have. Gut Shot is also probably fine in the deck. I'll consider it. It's not much burn, but it is free. So if we blow up all lands, again, we can... what does this do again? Inspired for what? Feywindu. Okay, I'm talking about another creature. It's an enchantment, yeah. Forge Stoker Dragon. Another colorless way to do damage, we could do that. Chandra Awakened Inferno. This card's a great way to win the game. Gives all our opponents emblems to kill them. So, and those emblems actually stick around after we die, so even if our opponents manage to kill us in response to that happening, that still... Frenzied Settlebrute I actually like a lot. It might give our opponents incentive to attack each other and not us. Blasphemous Act, another way to board wipe. Great card there. Explosion of Riches is fun. I don't know how much mana we'll get, though. Court of Ire is interesting. We could get the Monarchy, draw some extra cards, deal some damage to people. Hopefully that would work. Fireball, we're probably not going to get that much mana. I really like Ogre Battle Driver, but again, not the best. We'll consider Spikefield Hazard. Again, it's a way to get rid of a creature, and it can potentially just be a land. Mob Rule. We don't really have any ways to sacrifice creatures. Roiling Earthquake, there we go. That's a way to get rid of a bunch of different creatures if we can. A couple of the Chandra Awakened Infernos. Here we go. Chandra Fire Artisan. This one lets us draw cards, basically, and it disincentivizes our opponents from attacking it. Sarkhan the Masterless. Again, if we make a bunch of... If we make a bunch of Planeswalkers, we can turn them all into dragons and swing for lethal. Good way to do that. Tibble Rakish Instigator. Just a way to prevent our opponents from gaining life. Immolation Shaman, another pinger, kind of like Harsh Mentor. Make it really hard for our opponents to activate abilities. We want to just be doing as much damage as possible to our opponents. But what I don't want to do is I want to avoid damage, or what I want to do is avoid damage doubling effects like this. Actually, no, Rage Reflection just gives creatures double strike. That's probably fine. It's too much mana, though. But I don't want to double damage because that means that our opponents can also get the double damage, and they'll probably just attack us. Terror of the Peaks might be worth it to put in, just as a way to deal damage. We don't actually have that many creatures, so Subira isn't as good. This is Fire of Inspiration is great because it's a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player. So it means that our opponents attacking us in retribution for doing so much damage to them doesn't end up hurting us that way. Chandra Heart of Fire is pretty good. Not the best Chandra in the world, especially for this type of deck, but don't do your opponents. Chandra's Incinerator might be fine. What does Unpredictable Cyclone do when you cycle? Yeah, not that great. Momentum Rumbler. Do we have a Fanatic of Mogus? I might have a Fanatic of Mogus. And that only deals damage to one target. Probably not as good. Transmogrify. If we were going to have Luca, we could put Luca in as another Planeswalker. We went past him. Actually, kind of light up the stage also might be interesting. Whip Flare might save some of our creatures. We'll see if we end up with many artifacts. Keep both those as a maybe. Circara is interesting. Torbran is just great for us. This doesn't do much for us, actually. Opportunistic Dragon just takes those. I might go back and see what Luca does, see if he has any other interesting things, but the polymorph isn't really what we want. Exterior short spell, copy that twice. That's fine, but it's a bit too situational for what we're trying to do. Even though Glenhorn Buccaneer is also an interesting one, although it's a pirate, might be better in some other decks. Throes of Chouse, I know it's chaos. Interesting, maybe if we flood out. Probably not really going to get the job done. Planebound Apprentice, you have to sacrifice the Planeswalker, which is not what I want to do. Pillage is probably just a good one to put in. Custom target from your graveyard could make a section less. Copy those spells twice. Yeah. Jaya. If another red source you control would deal damage, so it increases the amount of damage that we can do. The polymorph isn't like the best ability. I guess we could get the dragon. Cavalcade of Calamity, not quite what we're doing here. Magmatic Force is interesting. At the beginning of each upkeep, so it'll probably bolt our opponents. Maybe we could polymorph into Magmatic Force, make a token, do that. That might be an interesting thing to try and do. If we polymorph and no, because we might end up with one of our Staxy creatures, which would not be particularly good. So maybe I don't do that. 2 target creatures, another Humble Defector, and then some generic cards here. Thunderous Wrath. Simian Spirit Guide is not, again, card disadvantage, kind of. Not quite what we're trying to do. So, let's put these up. Let's see if I can find that Luca again. There he is, Luca. He's foil. Exile a card. So the top 3 cards, creature cards. Yeah, so that's not quite doing what we want to do. I think Luca's one of the few planeswalkers that probably doesn't get in this deck. One that there are a couple that we want that we don't have. Koth would be a great one. And I don't own a Koth, so that's a bit of a problem. Now we'll look at artifacts. Of course, we're going to want to put in a Soul Ring. We want to accelerate as fast as we possibly can with this deck. So Skull Clamp actually might be good. I see a Skull Clamp in there. Inspiring Statuary. Ashnod's Altar might be good if we were going to steal some stuff. Cold Steel Heart seems like a good one. Skull Clamp might be good. We don't have that many creatures. Nevinyrral's Disc. There we go. That actually does destroy enchantments, but it keeps our planeswalkers around. So that's a good one. Tome of Legends. Meteor Golem might be good. I don't know how much mana we'll be getting to destroy, again, enchantments, which we're actually pretty weak against. Blasting Station. Probably mostly want Ramp. Prismatic Lens is fine. Not quite what we want, but it is a 2-mana ramp spell. If we can, let's put the Prismatic Lens in, and then my answer will be if we have, if we can get things that produce red mana. That's the big thing. We want cards that produce colored mana at a 2-mana cost, which is kind of difficult to do. Isolation Cell is interesting. They can lose life unless they pay mana. Jeweled Amulet I have a use for, so I'm not going to be putting that in this deck. It's going to be going in my Elsha the Infinite deck. Scroll Rack is pretty good. There's another Nevinyrral's Disc. Not quite in this deck. We might, if we find a Fire Diamond, that would definitely go in here. Arcane Signet, another good one. 2-mana ramp spell. Unfortunately, red doesn't care that much about enchantments, so we don't have like an enchantment spells cost less like Foundry Inspector. Fire Diamond, good card. Filigree Familiar is fine, probably not the best. Dreamstone Hedron costs a lot of mana. Perilous Mirror is just another way to deal damage. Maybe that's good. Probably not going to make it in as a Meteor Golem. Mask of Memory could draw us cards, but we don't have that many. Spectral Searchlight is a political tool, kind of. So, yeah, I mean, it might be useful. Prophetic Prism is mana fixing, but not necessarily mana ramp, which is unfortunate, but it would draw us a card. Commander Sphere is good. In general, you can always sack it to draw a card later. If someone blows up artifacts or something. Rings, you have to activate the ability, so I don't know how good Rings really is. Thought Vessel is interesting. It is 2 mana ramp. We'll think about it. Rishadan Pawnshop is a useless card. Palladium Mirror is a creature that can die pretty easily. Pyrite Spellbomb? I mean, again, another colorless way to do mana, or do damage, and you can sack it to draw a card. Maybe not the best. Probably won't put it in. I wish Sundering Titan was allowable. Mazemind Tome. Commander probably isn't that good. Oops. All the cards are falling over. All the cards are falling over. The sleeves are coming out. It's all a mess. It's all right. They fell over. Well, I couldn't save them. Chromatic Scepter. Chromatic Star. Bosch. We don't have that many artifacts to really do Bosch. Heirloom Blade is interesting. If I can find the totem, I have a Florosian totem, which is a time spiral one. It's in the budget deck. It is a 3 mana rock that taps for red and can turn into a creature, which is fascinating. Vessel of Endless Wrath. Boom Pile. Destroy all non-land permanents. Not quite what we want to be doing. Pretty close, though. Pretty close. Nyx Lotus. Your Devotion. That might be an interesting one in our colors. Devotion is something we do kind of well. Not a whole lot of artifacts for us here. Quicksilver Amulet. The Ozolith. There we go. Fascinating. Those there. Okay. Pull these up. I don't know how many... Come on. Work with me here. Work with me. I don't know how many non-basic lands we'll even have. Chromatic Orrery is interesting. You don't have that many colors, though. Primal Clay is funny. Evolving Wilds, Inventor's Fair. Hostile Desert, we can exile land cards from graveyard. Command Tower, I don't even know if that's good. In a mono red deck. Especially since we're punishing non-basics. So there is one land card I want. Actually, no, 2. Here we go. Carekeep. We can make tokens to block so that we don't die. We'll lose the game. And then there's one more in here. Here it is. Dwarven Ruins. So it comes into play tapped, but we can sacrifice it at 2 mana. Basically a little ritual spell, but it comes on a land. I think that's pretty good. So that's a bunch of lands there. And then these are also... Command Beacon might be interesting. Probably not. Path of Ancestry, we could... Zozu's a goblin? Where did I put Zozu? There he is. He's a goblin warrior. How many other warriors do you think we're going to cast? So we can scry. Unstable Frontier. Tectonic Edge. Destroy some non-basics there. Yeah. Not that many other... and then we start to get into cards. Field of Ruin, but that draws everyone a card, basically. Fabled Passage. Blast Zone. That might be another way to destroy a couple different permanents that our opponents have about. Dwarven Mine might be okay. Our payoff is we make a 1/1. That doesn't seem like the best payoff in the world. So now we're getting into cards that I have that are like promo cards. Gotten past all the lands and all the artifacts, all the lands, colorless stuff. Let's look at some promo cards real quick. Yeah, we were there earlier. We do have a promo Lightning Bolt and a promo Soul Ring. I'll just use a regular Soul Ring. There we go. Cool. Well, the ability of a Chandra Planeswalker, you may pay one if you do copy that ability. I don't think we have enough Chandras. We've got a lot of Chandras, but probably not enough to make that worth it. Most of these aren't mono red. Torbran, I already included a Torbran. No need to have this one. Slaying Fire, not that great. Annex. I don't think any of the red Throne of Eldraine cards. Unless, do we have a Bone Crusher Giant, maybe? Did I just go past them? I think I might have just gone like straight past them. Or black-red. Black. Shieldbreaker. And Bone Crusher Giant. Maybe. Seems fine. We can have our special mountains. Oh yeah, we can have these Chandra mountains. And then, where did I put it? Oh dang. No. Oh no, here it is, yeah. This is going to be a mountain. We have this great Adam Paquette. Mountain art from Zendikar Rising art card. That's going to be a mountain in our deck. In this deck for sure. Mana Confluence. Not many red cards in the secret layers, honestly. Lightning bolts that are promos, Dome Rees, Senior Visions, yeah. So not very many. Okay, so let's see what our deck looks like now. And then we'll pull out probably a Soul Ring and a Florosian Totem. This is more cards than I wanted, or than I need, so I'm going to have to do some cuts for sure. Let's lay out the curve, though. 2 mana, 4 mana, 1 mana. Am I doing this in the correct places? There we go. 4 mana, 2 mana, 2. It's probably best. This is the cycling cost, so we'll put this for 7 mana. 7 mana. 4, 2, 4. What's the 4 mana cards? Cage Sun is 6. 2 mana, 3, 3. We'll do this for the cheaper cost. It's a land. This is 5 mana. 5. 3 mana, 4 mana, 2 mana. And these are Geomancy. Controlling may search later. Draw a card. So yeah, this is Cleansing Wildfire is just better. Yeah, it's the same effect. We don't need Geomancer's Gambit then. Trimble is fun. And Zarin Ruins. Probably need to cut some 4-drops. Bedlam Reveler probably don't need. Or Furious Rise. I don't think we're going to have that many creatures. Price of Progress. Six mana. Goes over here. Devastate's still a maybe, probably. 2 mana, 3 mana. Stolen Strategy is really fun. We can just steal our opponent's cards if we don't have anything to do. Bone Crusher Giant, we'll put that in 3. That's a land, that's a land, that's a land, that's a land. So we have 5 non-basics. That's not terrible. Perimir. Nev's Disc goes over there. Cold Steel Heart. Magmatic Force might be too cute. Pillage is good because it can do other things. Throes of Chaos might actually be good in this deck. Looking in, we have a bunch of 2 and 3 drops. Torbran. Circara might get cut, probably. Light at the Stage also might get cut because it just doesn't quite do the thing. We don't actually have that many artifact creatures, so I don't know how good Whip Flare is, but it's basically another Pyroclasm for Emancipation. I'm going to keep that in. 5, 3, 4. This probably is best when we cast it for like 4. 5 mana. This is generally going to be a 4 mana spell or something like that. 6 mana with its emblems. Dead and Gone. We'll put that in 2 because I don't know which one we're going to cast it more as. It's a 4-drop. That's a 2-drop. This one probably can just be cut. Probably not going to work, really. Anger of the Gods, our board wipe. Actual factual anger. Dragon Mage, Annex, I'll cut it. I don't see very many creatures that we have. Our devotion might be pretty high, though. Okay. So, here we are. Let's start counting cards again from our cheapest 1-mana spells, and then see how we get to 73 or so. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 39, 40, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73. We'll go with, 73. So that means we have these cards. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18 cards with which to mess with. So what do we want to cut to get our top end back? Well, I might cut that. These I want for sure because they're going to do a lot of stuff. I might cut most creatures. I'm pretty willing to cut. Leyline Tyrant's pretty good though. Dingus Egg. Dingus Staff. The Ember Mage is only all right. Seismic Strike is actually pretty good, I think. This card is funny, but oh, I remember I need to remember that I do need to have Anger. We don't have that many creatures, so I don't know how useful it is. In fact, I'll once I get these sorted out, Sisters of Flame might not need. Citadel of Pain or Mage's Contest. Actually, I just like it because it's fun. Rummaging Goblin might not need. Bone Crusher Giant we might not need. One of these two, probably not. Light Up the Stage we might not need. Cathartic Reunion. Okay, and all of our card advantage. This card again, probably we don't need, but oh no, Boom Bust actually we do need. Never mind. Why did I put this here? It's a 1-drop. Dead and Gone we might not need, but it's fun. Loyal Apprentice we might not need. And then, yeah, these all seem good. Gut Shot maybe not. Okay. And I'm going to turn the camera off real quick, and I'm going to find my a Soul Ring and my Florician Totem real quick. So I did actually find a Soul Ring. I had to go all the way back to Commander 2019 in order to find one. Didn't realize I'd pilfered that many, and I had anticipated that I might have some problems finding Florician Totems. And I did. I thought I had a second one, but I don't, as it turns out. So I'm just gonna show y'all. It should probably be in this deck, but it's not a big deal if it's not. I'm just going to see if I can find it. It's one of the few artifacts in this deck, probably. Temple of the False God. That actually might not be a bad one to have. There it is. So it's a 3-mana rock, adds red mana, but it can become a giant. So that is pretty cool. And I think it's good to have versatile cards like that you can manage to put in these monocolored decks. But probably not worth it enough, really. Where does this divide into 3 mana? 2 and 3. 2 mana, 3 mana. Okay, so we'll replace Gut Shot with Soul Ring. We might still have Gut Shot, but so Gut Shot will go in here. We probably want. Okay, Sarkhan, discard your hand. Yeah, do damage to any target. We don't have that many instant and sorceries, but that might be good. We want Jaya. Again, that works with our strategy best. Want this other Chandra. We want Yorkle Hops and Decree of Annihilation. So those are the ones, and then probably Fiery Emancipation. Those are the ones we want the most, I think, out of all those. So let's see. How many creatures do we actually have? So that's the thing. We need, once we've considered looking at that, 1, let's do 2. Tibble mixed creatures, but it's not create 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We only have 7 creatures once we've cut. Once we potentially cut some of these other ones. I mean, we cut most along. We cut a lot of creatures, so we could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more creatures. 8 more, and then potentially some of the big ones that we add from this pile over here. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I still think probably creature support is worth cutting, honestly. So we'll cut Anger. Actually, Anger would be the last one we cut. Lavaborn Muse, probably. This one seems like the worst. 2 or fewer cards in hand. How am I supposed to know if that's going to happen? Frenzied Saddlebird I want to keep if I can. This could be card advantage. Sisters of the Flame, we just have better mana. We have better mana acceleration than Sisters of the Flame. Cut that. So that's 3 cards. And that's 2 cards cut. We'll probably cut the Apprentice. Doesn't do us a great amount of job, just being a 2/2 and a 1/1 with haste. If we control our commander, which we might not. Light up the Stage. We have probably better forms of card advantage than just this one card. So that's 4 cards. So we can probably add in. We'll add in these 4. So our main board wipes and some ways of dealing damage. So we can add in those 4 cards, which are our top curve cards. And then we can probably, if we cut some, Koremus Bell specifically hates on swamps. Cormus Bell, sorry, which I think is fine. I mean, you're probably going to run into players that have swamps, especially if someone puts an Urborg in play that makes a Pyroclasm like a land wipe, which is fun. In fact, it might be worth it just for that. So yeah, we'll cut. Wojic Ember Mage doesn't do enough, I don't think, even though it's really fun. And Anger. Cut those 2 to put in probably Jaya and Serkan. And let's go through and see if there are more cards for us to cut. Torbran is pretty good. That's just sources we control. Red sources, yeah, specifically. Nyx Lotus might get cut. I don't know how much 4-mana ramp is doing for us. But if we blow up all lands, it's pretty good, actually. Works specifically good with our strategy. Those are all good cards. Why is Pyroclasm? What? I screwed up where the mana symbols are here. What? I screwed it up even more. Oh my god. Why do I do this to myself? Spectral Searchlight could probably be cut, but I want a bunch of ramp, honestly. These cards all seem good. Pyroclasm is good. Cleansing Wildfire for dealing with single lands. Boom Bust, Tremble. Perilous Mirror can get cut for sure. Probably. Whip Flare, basic, like I say, another Pyroclasm, basically. Dead and Gone is interesting. It's a card you don't see very often. Spikefield Hazard is basically another land, so it's not bad. So we'll cut that, and we'll put in... did I already put in the other Chandra? Do we have any of these we really want to put in? Stolen Strategy? Probably. Devastate, Cleansing Beam. If we can put in Meteor Golem... I might put in Meteor Golem instead of Rummaging Goblin. Let's do that. Way to deal with anything. And then, do we want something other than like Cathartic Reunion? Like, do we want Dragon Mage to like refill our hand later? But then each player does it. Magmatic Force probably isn't that good. Court of Ire, maybe. Circara. Deal damage to a player. Circara is probably not that good. Neither is Devastate. Number of cards in their hand. Again, that counts on our opponents having cards in hand. Court of Ire. Being the Monarch is interesting. I don't know if we'll regain it. Terror of the Peaks. No, I think we'll cut Cathartic Reunion. No, actually we'll cut the Bone Crusher. Cut the Bone Crusher Giant and put in the Chandra, and then keep the rest like that, I think. So that's going to be our deck. Let's count it up again, see that we have enough cards. Actually, you know what? I'll do that off screen. We'll see if I make any more cuts. I think that's pretty close to our deck. And then we have these non-basics here. And then, of course, we have 2 of our basics. And then I'm going to make this. It's a red deck, so it's got to be chaotic. You saw the other deck had just foils. So the thing I'm going to look for is I'm going to get out my box of basic lands here. And I'm going to look. I can do foils again, which would be fun. I have probably enough, but I want them to all be different arts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can find... pull them out. There's some random Cons of Tarkir lands, and here we go. Random old border cards. 8th edition Island, perfect. They got the Cons there. Ooh, there's a Tormod script. In Japanese. Oh no, that's a Spanish one. Japanese is the other card. Yes. Cards with somebody else's initials on them? Or something. I don't know what they're doing there. Snow-covered plains. Cool. Dope. I pilfered some of these already for that other deck. 7th edition Plains. So let's see if we can find some mountains that are all different types. Come on, I have to have some old bordered mountains, right? Terravor. Someone wanted Hedron crabs. They really worldly tutors. Dope. Someone just hated plains. They just wrote on all their plains. Okay, these are newer lands. Oh, that's unfortunate. I thought I had some old bordered lands. I might just have to go with foils. I might just have to go with foil full arts because those are all Ixalan lands right there, which look dope. Don't get me wrong. I love Ixalan lands. Our Devastation, those are fine. Yeah. Oh shucks. Is that really it? Is it really all my old bordered ones? Oh no. Disaster. How terrible. Yeah, these are swamps from the Divine versus Demonic set. There's a Theros land. Disaster. Oh man. I might just have to go with Zendikar Rising and do full arts. Because I have the Zendikar Rising full art lands, yeah. Oh shucks, man. That was going to be such a good idea. Yeah, alright, well, I'll get Zendikar Rising full arts and do those instead. I could just go Chaos and do the one that's marked PG, but alrighty. Well, if I ever make a mono white deck, though, I can have a bunch of Chaos mono white cards. Alright, put this back. And yeah, I'll get the Zendikar Rising stuff out. Cool. Alrighty, so here we have a deck all fully sleeved up and stuff. The land base is not as chaotic as I wanted it to be, but I think I made do, especially with some little gems in there. And as I was sleeving it up, I noticed that something that the eagle-eared of you might have noticed, that I was counting to 76 non-land cards when I should have been counting to or 74. I should have been counting to 64, of course, because that's how math actually works. So I ended up having to cut about 10 cards. I cut some of these a bit too random, a bit too specific, not enough. Kind of destroys arsenal as well. Again, doesn't quite do enough. This one might be a mistake, but you know, it was a high enough mana cost. I might put it in later. Same for this, although we're not doing enough instants and sorceries for that to work as well as it probably should. This one, just because I had to cut one of the pyroclasm effects, I didn't have to, but I felt like cutting one of them. I feel like we had enough damage-based board wipes. Prismatic Lens, because it doesn't add red. This is too cute, and Pirate Spellbomb also doesn't do enough. Those are all of my cuts for the moment. They're going to go in a sideboard, though, along with a lot of the other cards that I had in there. And I can hopefully in the future, you know, if it turns out that I desperately need them for whatever reason, I can sideboard them in and, you know, sideboard them in and start playing them instead of some of the cards that I did choose to play in the deck. There are a couple of cards in here, like the Kuruma's Bell, which goes against swamps, which I guess Island... you know, Boil is maybe objectively better, but more people have Urborg, I think, than Urborg and Cabal Coffers, and that's like a way to get around that, a way to sort of make any Wrath effect affect almost everyone's lands as well. So it sort of stops Wraths, which I don't necessarily know if I want to do, but let's do a quick test here. I chose these nice magenta sleeves. I'm using red for something else, but I'm just about out of colors, honestly, for different decks. So that's 4. Ooh, that's not good. Only 1 land. Yeah, even with Cleansing Fire, that's not good. Yeah, we wouldn't have drawn one. Yeah, wouldn't have drawn one next either. So that's a bad hand. Gotta mulligan that. I do typically go pretty low on land count because most of my decks are aggressive. 36 lands is like a pretty aggressive number, honestly, for most people. Or actually, no, it's not that aggressive. 34 is actually what I go with a lot of the time, and that's pretty aggressive. This, I'm blowing up lands, so of course I want to go a little bit more. Honestly, I feel like 40 is a good place to start if you're not being aggressive. Like, you know, people want to cut lands for their big spells, and I think if you have a big spell deck, you want to start with 40 lands. And just make more commander decks, honestly, is part of the thing. You should add more lands to each of your decks, and then if you have cards that you're not playing that you want to play, just make another deck with it. I know that, you know, I'm very lucky and I have a bunch of cards. I have, you know, this whole place that I can dedicate to making new decks. And not everyone has that, but, you know, eventually people, as they play Magic, they might buy, you know, the commander decks every year or whatever. They might buy a bundle with every set. And eventually you're going to get enough cards that you can build commander decks for whatever you're doing. Thought Vessel, if I can get another land. Nope, not quite. I might... Let's try this. This is bad. This is a bad idea. But we'll draw a card. Never Punished. Never Punished. We'll play a mountain and pass. Yeah, let's go. Draw a card. Boom Bust. Mountain. Thought. That's a Meteor Golem. That's not a Thought Vessel. Thought Vessel. Can't do anything with that right now. We'll pass the turn. Untap. Draw a card. A Chandra. This Chandra can add mana. We don't actually have enough mana now. So we'll use this Thought Vessel to play a Roiling Vortex. Beginning of each player's upkeep, it deals the damage to them. Presumably, if someone makes to gain a life, we will prevent them from doing so. We could have cast Zozu. Oh my god, we could have cast Zozu. Never mind. Actually, we're not going to cast Roiling Vortex. We're going to cast Zozu. That's what Commander is. That's how you cast. So you play Commander. Our opponent's playing lands now and ramp spells, turns 2 or 3. Just start hurting a lot more. Zozu's probably going to die. That's probably how that happens. Now we'll play this Roiling Vortex. Not getting any lands, which is bad. And then presumably if our opponent tries to gain life at some point, we will activate this Roiling Vortex. We have 7 cards exactly. All right, untap. Then we'll draw a card. That's a Leyline Tyrant. We're going to have to discard. We'll discard a Meteor Golem because it's not doing us any good in our hand. And then we'll pass. Okay, we'll go to untap next turn. Mana Barbs. All right, well, this is a wash. I probably shouldn't have kept this hand, though. Yep. All right, well. Getting stuck on mana sucks. And I do, like, 36 lands. I do have 36 lands in the deck, which is not a bad number. Like I say, I just get off this hill about, you know, how you should have 40, maybe even 42 lands in your deck. And then I just don't get the lands, enough lands. You'd think that in that many draws I'd get a land. I believe, theoretically, probably with that, only 2 lands in that many cards, like 10 cards I saw at least. More than that. So, yeah. I saw at least 10 cards. I should probably be good for 3 lands there. Technically speaking, because I have more than a third of my deck is lands. But, you know, that's how probabilities work sometimes, is you sometimes just don't get them. So that was a greedy keep a little bit, but especially since I only had 1 land actually in the opener. So yeah, don't do that. I was able to play the cards that I wanted to on curve, though. It's just that my curve had to stop early because of how I was going. So one final shuffle here. Alrighty, let's go. Big money, no whammies. That's 4 lands off the top. Draw a card. That's 5 lands off the top. Well, we know where all my lands are. I mean, yeah, I'd keep after that. We'll say we mulligan the last one, so we'll put a land on the bottom. Even. Mulligan the last one like we should have. So yes, we'll draw a card. It's another mountain? No, it's a pirate set. That's actually a really good one. We'll play a mountain and pass the turn. Okay, we'll draw a card. It's another land. We'll play another mountain. And then we'll cast that pyrostatic pillar. Whenever a player plays a spell converted by cost 3 or less, they take 2 damage. Untap. That probably sucks for our opponents on turn 2. Draw this card. Play another mountain. We'll cast Zozu, which will cost us 2 damage in this particular instance, because that's how cards work. That's how this effect works. But our opponents are also probably going to be very annoyed. Untap. Draw a card. We'll play another mountain. Oh my god. Yep, let's continue the annoy our opponents trap with War's Toll. Whenever an opponent taps a land for mana, they have to tap all their lands. Ooh. Yeah, cool. And then we will untap. Presumably Zozu would actually be dead in like almost any real game, but that's not how it's going to go here. We'll cast this Frenzied Saddle Brute, which I believe with War's Toll makes it so that they have to attack my opponents. To your opponents as though they had haste. We'll probably attack. A 5/4 on turn 5, probably enough to get through someone. So yeah. We'll untap. My opponents are probably annoyed. That's all I wanted out of life. Alright, well now we're not doing as much. That's fine. We'll probably pass. Presumably at some point Zozu will die, and then we'll have to cast. That'll ping us. We'll have to cast this Blasphemous Act and Whip Flare at some point. Let's see if we can draw some more action. Shattering Spree. We can destroy like every artifact on the battlefield with that. Let's do it. Let's cast it for like 4. See if we can destroy a bunch of artifacts. At some point, these will probably go away. Let's presume that happens. Care Keep. Well, at least this gives us a thing to do. Our cards are probably dead at this point. So this game started out really well, but we haven't drawn a gas to back up our lands, which sometimes happens. We can make tokens, though. Experimental Frenzy. That's exactly what we need, actually, to get ourselves out of this hole. So we'll play Experimental Frenzy without playing a land, because we can play a land from the top of our library. We can't cast this Sarkhan. Can't play that Sarkhan from our hand. That's unfortunate. That's real bad. Okay, well, we'll pass the turn then. We'll draw this Sarkhan. And look at the top card of our library. It's a Dingus Egg. We'll pay 4 to cast a Dingus Egg. That is a Stone Shaker Shaman. We will pay 3 to cast this Stone Shaker Shaman. And that's a Dwarven Ruins. We'll put that into play tapped. All right. Well, this game, if we survived this long, we actually have ended up doing pretty good. What's our next card? The next card, Fire Emancipation. I would have loved that, but not quite doing it for us. Okay. Yeah, so I think Experimental Frenzy gets us back in this game. We can play this Acidic Soil. We can play Underworld Breach. Ooh, Soul Ring. Maybe, probably won't be able to play that this turn. Yeah, I think that gets us in this game. So there we go. That is it doing what I want it to do. Let's do one more test game. That was sort of in the middle. So we got screwed the first test and then flooded the second. Although we did draw our anti-flood tech. So I was considering cutting that even. Oh, Zozu. I let him go to the graveyard. Let's making some assumptions. Again, Zozu is probably going to eat removal as soon as he hits the board, so he might not even last as long. And I was dealing 2 damage to myself each time that happened as well. So I might have even basically killed myself with Zozu in that game. We'll see how it works in real life. That's the part of the problem with decks like this. Again, a lot of those cards you saw me cut had some of the higher variants for relying on what your opponents do, but in the end, this deck kind of relies on what your opponents are going to do. It kind of assumes that your opponents are going to land ramp, and it kind of assumes that your opponents are going to have more mana to throw around, assumes that they're playing more efficient games in some ways, while it is not particularly playing an efficient game, which might get me killed, which is why I was trying to avoid the damage doubling effects, because if all damage is doubled, like with Furnace of Wrath or something, then I might end up just getting killed by my opponents who have destroyed all of my things. There's a mountain. One more mountain. Come on. One more mountain. There we go. Perfect. Exactly like we drew it up. 2 mountains in the opening hand. I think that's worth keeping. We'll draw a card. It's a Burning Earth. Mountain. Go. Draw a card. Want a turn 2 play. Roiling Vortex. That's fine. Now we want just Lance. From now on, just Lance. Untap. Draw a card. Barbarian Ring. Could be worse. Could be a lot worse, honestly. Barbarian Ring will deal a damage to us, and we will cast Zozu, the Punisher. Untap. Draw a card. That doesn't do anything for us right now, but it does mean that we can discard fine. But we don't have to, so I guess we'll attack with Zozu and pass the turn. Which is a bit unfortunate. That's a Leyline Tyrant. Ugh. I thought I had enough 1 and 2 and 3 drops in this deck. I honestly did. If you look at my deck list, I think did I cut all of them? Is that what happened here? Did I cut every one of them? No, these are all like big ones. Most of them. Yeah, there's some smaller ones that I cut. Yeah, I feel like I didn't actually do bad here. Dead and Gone, Prismatic Lens. I guess we cut some ramp. Maybe Prismatic Lens was the thing to put in here. Draw a card. That's a mountain. That's good. Play that. Oh, we had to discard last turn. Probably discard a Burning Earth. Well, we'll make our opponents hurt and cast a Mana Barbs. Yeah. Untap. Draw a card. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, that's good if we start to flood out, but we're not currently doing that. Cast this a Leyline Tyrant. Take a bunch of damage from Mana Barbs. Untap, draw a card. That's a mountain. Take some damage from Zozu, which is fun, always. Okay, I mean, this is what the deck is supposed to do, so, you know. Sarkhan seems good, because we have a dragon on the battlefield. Barbarian Ring is also dealing 2 damage to us because of Mana Barbs, which is not ideal. Sarkhan, the Masterless. we'll just make a dragon, right? And then we have 2 dragons, so any creature that attacks us is 4. Okay, so now this is working. This is fine. Blast Zone. Okay, yeah. We can cast a Chandra and just make ourselves the target. Plus it, give our opponent some emblems. Seems good. Okay, well, that's kind of what the deck is supposed to do. And in this one, I actually have a handful of cards, and there's some lands. Maybe I should have played the Valakut Exploration. Okay, so that's kind of what it's supposed to do. It just took a bunch of shuffling. And I need to mulligan more aggressively. But I think this deck does work, actually, kind of as it's supposed to do. We'll see how it works in actual games against actual humans. It really does depend on what opponents do. If all 3 of my opponents team up against me, I probably die no matter what. But then the game ended quickly. That's kind of what I want to do with this type of deck. Is I want the game to end quickly. I could probably upgrade it, and I probably will over time, to have faster mana. Probably better mana rocks is really what the deck needs to sort of accelerate. I don't think like a Rite of Flame might be good to cast Zozu on turn 1, but I don't think rituals are that good because we lose the card advantage, and we're not really getting a whole lot back for the deal. But I think that probably some like the Mox that makes you discard lands. What is that one called? Mox Diamond? That's expensive, but like, a Mox Diamond type effect. Just maybe some more big mana. Maybe I should just include more ramp in general. Maybe cutting my prismatic lens was a mistake. We'll see. I'm gonna, this is the first iteration of the deck, and I want to do some playtesting, of course. We have to be back in a situation where we can do that. But yeah, I've been waiting to build this deck for a long time, and I'm just excited to actually build it and be hated off of the table. Don't build this deck. Don't do it. Yeah. Well, thank you for watching. If you have been, hope to catch you next time.